Imagine this. You're on a road trip through Europe. You're driving from France to Germany and you're looking forward to exploring the beautiful Black Forest. But as you approach the border, you see a sign that says passport control. You sigh. You thought the Schengen area meant that you could travel through Europe without having to show your passport at every border. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. In recent years, member states have reintroduced border controls in response to challenges such as the refugee crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, and terrorism. So what does this mean for the future of the Schengen area? Is it collapsing, or is it just going through a temporary rough patch? Stay tuned to find out. Please subscribe to the channel to stay in the loop. The Schengen area is a great example of European coming together. It's a place without borders where 27 European countries let people move freely. You can go from Toledo to Trumo, crossing many borders, and no one checks your passport. But this free travel area is in a bit of trouble. Some countries are putting back border controls because they're worried about too many people moving around, and efforts to make the area bigger are being stopped. First, let's talk more about what the Schengen area is and where it came from. The idea of moving freely has always been important in Europe. In 1957, the Treaty of Rome said that people could move freely between countries. But back then, it was mostly for people who were working, giving them the freedom to live and work in any member state. But it didn't get rid of the checks at borders. Then, in 1985, there was a big agreement signed in Luxembourg near a village called Schengen. 5 of the 10 European Economic Community countries agreed to slowly get rid of checks at their shared borders. In 1990, there was another agreement that said they should completely get rid of checks inside borders and have a common visa policy. This all started happening in 1995 and became a law of the European Union in 1999 when the Treaty of Amsterdam included it. Nowadays, the Schengen area includes most EU countries and 4 non-EU states: Iceland, Norway, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein. Additionally, there are micro-states like Monaco, San Marino, and the Vatican City that aren't Schengen members but act as if they are. However, 4 EU member states, Iceland with an opt-out, and Cyprus, Bulgaria, and Romania are not part of the area. Cyprus, Bulgaria, and Romania are obliged under EU law to join in the future, but they're at different stages of the process. This brings us to the first challenge for the Schengen area: expansion, or more precisely, the difficulty in expanding. Croatia is the newest member, officially joining at the start of 2023. Although Croatia became an EU member in 2013, it took nearly a decade to join the Schengen area. On the other hand, Romania and Bulgaria, EU members since 2007, have been trying to join since 2011 when they completed the evaluation process. Despite meeting membership requirements for years, their efforts have been blocked, despite repeated calls for their inclusion from both the European Parliament and the European Commission. Commission President Ursula von der Leyen even addressed the matter in her State of the Union speech in September, stating that they have proven their readiness and should be brought in without further delay. The challenge for Romania and Bulgaria is that joining the Schengen area needs approval from all existing member states, and they're facing resistance from just 1 or 2 countries. In Romania's case, Austria is the obstacle, while for Bulgaria, it's both Austria and the Netherlands. Austria claims its opposition isn't against the countries themselves, but stems from worries about corruption and insufficient border controls, which could lead to more irregular migration into the EU through these nations. This situation has led to significant frustration, especially in Romania. The country has even threatened to end the involvement of an Austrian company in a Romanian gas project. The Prime Minister has gone as far as suggesting the possibility of taking Austria to court, seeking billions of euros in compensation for the over a decade-long delay in joining the Schengen area. The Prime Minister argues that this delay has cost Romania up to 2% of its economic output. While the Netherlands seems to be easing its stance on Bulgaria's Schengen membership, Austria remains steadfast in its opposition to both Romania and Bulgaria. Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer is firmly against any Schengen expansion until there are reforms in the entire zone and EU migration rules. This has led the Romanian president to claim that Schengen is no longer effective and almost doesn't exist. He added that many states, especially in Central Europe, have closed their borders due to migration. This brings us to another factor putting pressure on the Schengen area. The reintroduction of border controls under EU law is allowed for Schengen member states in cases of a serious threat to public policy or internal security. It's meant to be a last resort and exceptional measure. Currently, about 10 countries, including Italy, Slovenia, Austria, Denmark, Norway, Germany, Czechia, Poland, Sweden and France, have temporarily reintroduced border controls. Many of these countries cite high migration pressures and the threat of violence and terror as reasons, pointing to situations in Israel and Ukraine, such as human smuggling and increased migration flows. This phenomenon isn't confined to governments of a specific political stance. The list of countries includes those led by left, right, populists, mainstream parties, and more. Given the sensitivity of the migration issue across the EU, some might argue that political posturing plays a role in the decisions made by these governments, alongside genuine efforts to address stated threats. While temporary controls may seem reasonable in response to specific challenges, in several cases they are becoming the new normal. 6 countries, in particular, have been continually extending these temporary measures since around 2015-2016. The European Commission is growing increasingly frustrated and has initiated a formal consultation procedure with all involved states. This, in a self-reinforcing manner, reflects a growing lack of confidence among European countries that the EU's approach to free movement and migration is achieving its desired outcomes. The success of Europe has caused worry in some member states that there would be little motivation for others to properly control their borders. Without borders within the EU, there's a concern that countries might just direct unwanted migrants to other Schengen Area countries. To address this concern, the EU introduced the Dublin Accords, which mandate processing irregular immigration in the country of arrival. This means that if, for instance, Italy allows a group of migrants to pass into France without processing them, France can send them back to Italy. Unfortunately, this system led to another problem, putting excessive pressure on the countries at the EU's external borders, often referred to as frontier countries. These countries receive the majority of the EU's irregular migrants. Consequently, when migrant numbers have increased recently, frontier countries have responded by adopting strict immigration policies, drawing criticism from other EU countries on human rights grounds. For instance, last year, France criticised Italy for refusing to accept a migrant rescue ship which was then docked in southern France. Italy is currently in a dispute with Germany over its support for migrant rescue charities operating in the Mediterranean, which Italy believes encourages irregular migration. The EU has attempted to address this issue with a voluntary solidarity mechanism, requiring non-frontier countries that sign up to take in a few thousand migrants from the frontier countries. However, it's not a permanent solution since it's voluntary, which is why countries like Poland and Hungary haven't joined. Both Germany and France temporarily withdrew from it after their disagreement with Italy. Regardless of your opinion on whether bringing back border controls is a good or bad decision, most people would likely agree that it further weakens the Schengen project, a fundamental aspect of European integration. To overcome this, the European Union will need to address the broader issue of migration, a challenge they are actively working on. That's it for today. And now we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Do subscribe to the channel if you like our content. We will catch you in the next one.